Hello. Um, so I'm outside right now because my kid is playing, so I need to be outside. But I also need to get these videos done. So the question for this slide on listening was prior to the mindfulness listening exercise, what were your initial thoughts about each person? So there were three people that I have had conversations with. And the first one was my stepson, and he is 20 years old. And um, I really didn't ever think that he was into politics, into human rights, into any of that. And then a conversation came about after um, that horrible school shooting in Texas. And he was in high school when the Parkland shooting happened. And so somehow or another, this conversation came about gun control. And he lived with his mother for a bit, um, a couple years ago, right after he graduated high school. And she's married to somebody who is very much into the Second Amendment right and having all their guns. And so I guess I just assumed that this conversation with him wasn't going to go the way that it actually went. I thought he was very much going to have a stance on gun rights, and I was pleasantly surprised after our conversation, and just hearing his knowledge on just reform and restrictions and politics in general and human rights. Um, he's really bright and totally with it with um, current events, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought we were going to have completely opposite views on this, and we actually ended up having very similar views. And it it taught me. Sorry, I'm cleaning my sunglasses. Um, it taught me that just by listening a little bit, your first assumptions on what someone might stand for or what they believe or what their values are might be totally different. You might think you know where they stand, maybe because you think you know what their experiences in life are, but until you actually listen to them, you really don't know. So the second person I talked to was my best friend, Erin. We've been friends since middle school, and we are almost closing in on 40 years old. So we've known each other for a very long time. She's my very best friend, and her husband and her have been married forever. They were high school sweethearts, and he is definitely a hunter, likes his guns. Hi, honey. Mom life. Some of you might understand. um, but he owns AR-15. And so Erin and I had lunch last week, or maybe the week before, and I was asking her about, or it was right after the mass shooting in Texas, and I was asking her, about how she feels about him having an AR-15 and what her stance might be on gun reform and maybe the outlaw of these semi-automatic rifles. And again, I guess I had just assumed that she was going to say, we stand for the Second Amendment 100%. It's our right to have whatever guns we see fit. And then she went on, though, to tell me that her husband Daniel bought his AR-15 when he was 19, or when he was 18, excuse me. And how, looking back now, she finds it absolutely mind blowing that this 18-year-old who wanted this AR-15 for just the simple fact that he thought it was cool, was able to go and buy it. Um, and so she also, though, after talking to her, and I asked her, because I am not a hunter, I come from a little bit of hunting in my family, but not. Yes, honey. I don't know. Okay, I will. Um, I don't come from a huge like hunting background in my family. And so she does a little bit more than I do. And so I asked her, and this might have seemed silly at the time, but again, I don't really don't know a whole lot about what guns you use to hunt with. But I asked her, I said, does he use the AR-15 to hunt? And she's like, oh no. Um, there would not be any usable meat left on the animal if he had used it. And so I asked her again, why does he have it then? What is the need at this point? She said, honestly, the only need at this point, and I've talked to him about this, she says, is the intimidation factor. They have a home on a bit of secluded land here in Washington, and their neighbors are not super close. And so if something were to happen, you know, um, their power goes out a lot because they are kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And so she said, it's only for intimidation factor now. He doesn't use it for anything other than that. It honestly never comes out. And so then I thought, okay, so I my stance on gun control is we don't need these weapons. These weapons that are meant for military, the normal everyday average Joe like myself doesn't need them. But then hearing her say, and I know him. I've also known him since high school. He's a very responsible guy. And it just listening to her conversation and having this dialogue with her, my stance on gun control doesn't change, but I can see where someone who is very responsible feels like they maybe need a intimidating weapon. In my opinion, all weapons are intimidating, but again, I don't come from a family of, and that kind of goes into what we've talked about also in this class, just the social stance of people and how it kind of intertwines with our family and our pre-existing ideas and opinions and ideologies on just life in general. But again, I don't come from a family of guns, and they do. And so it kind of though makes me understand a little bit on why people might be so protective of that right. Some of these people might be very responsible, level-headed people. And so then it made me think maybe we just raise the age limit on buying these types of weapons. It makes me think about those questions. It doesn't make me change my stance on it, which is we don't need them. But that's just my opinion. But it does open my eyes to what somebody else, their stance, and why they take that stance, right? Um, The third conversation I had was with my neighbor, Sarah. I am very much a feminist. I am a mother of two boys and one daughter. My boys are 5 and 6, almost 5. He's 4 currently. He'll turn 5 in August. And I have a daughter who's 10. And she is a mother of triplets, and they are almost 5. And I am a feminist all the way. And everything about me screams feminist, and I love to share my views um, as being a feminist. And our kids take swim lessons together, and we were at the pool last week, I think. It was during the Johnny Depp trial, and she looked at me and she said, I used to think that I was a feminist. But after watching this trial and this are her words, and in her opinion, feeling that Amber Heard was lying and how easily it is for a woman to make up accusations that are not true, that are falsified. I'm sorry, dogs are being let out in my neighbor's house and they're barking now. This is real life online learning. But she said it's hard for me to be a feminist and stand in that, right? Or how could you be a feminist having two boys? And what if they were to come to you and say, so and so is accusing me of sexual assault? I did not do it. She said, as a feminist, are you just supposed to stand there and say, well, as a feminist, we are just supposed to believe all women? And it kind of stopped me in my tracks because as a mother of two boys, in the Me Too movement, it is important to believe those accusations. You need to wait 1 minute, honey. You need to wait 1 minute, okay? I'm coming. Hold on. I'm gonna have to go here in a minute. But anyway, it made me stop and think, can I still be a feminist and expect that accusations like this be taken seriously, even if I believe that my son didn't do it? Um, I can, and this is what I'm gonna pause this one moment. I'll be right. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Um, anyway, where did I leave off? Her asking me that question, posing that question to me in a way, how can you be a feminist? Someone who is supposed to believe all accusations from women because we so often don't, and we have brushed them under the rug. Um, and I had to tell her, and this was after reading this part of the book about listening, active listening, listening to understand, not listening to react. I said to her, and actually I think I mentioned this in one of our prompts earlier in a couple weeks ago when we were in Yellow Dig, having these conversations. But I used what I had learned, and I said to her, because I can be very reactional. I can very easily jump into these conversations with my opinions without thinking twice. And what I've learned is you need to stop sometimes. And before I reacted, I said to her, I appreciate your stance and your question and your opinion on this. I'm going to need some time to really just okay, to really digest it and think about it. I'll be in just a minute. Okay, I will get you some. Um, and after I came home and I thought about it, I am still firm in my belief that I can be a feminist and also believe that all accusations need to be taken seriously. I mean, I look at this Johnny Depp case, and the jurors found that she was falsifying accusations. That they what she was saying was not true. And I know of cases of friends who have been accused of sexual assault. And later on, when the evidence and truth came out, that woman was lying. But it can go both ways, right? Men can lie about situations and women can lie about situations. Men can also be honest about situations. I also know a man who was raped as a young or an older child. He was, 14, and was seduced and manipulated by a woman who was close to 40. So then you think like, would he have been taken? And he had people. I know him very personally. He had people say to him, people I know, well, you were a boy, you had to have liked it, right? But he was 14. He didn't know any better. Of course he enjoyed it, but at the same time he was manipulated into thinking that that was normal when it wasn't normal. So and I had this conversation with her later, and she respected my stance on it as I respect hers. And yes, I can be a feminist and think that all accusations like that need to be taken seriously, whether what gender or whoever, non-binary, non-conforming, male, female, they need to all be taken seriously. And I can still stand in my feminist stance on that. Am I leaving anything out? Um, the last question was, were there many barriers to your mindful listening? And I will say yes. I think that last one, that feminism and feminist stance, there was a barrier because I immediately wanted to react with probably some aggression. And I had to step back and think, I can see where she's coming from. As a mother of three boys, she has triplets. I'm a mother to two boys. I have a stepson as well. So three boys, younger, 4 and 5, or 5 and 6, and then my stepson who's 20. And I can't even imagine after I stopped and thought about her take on it, I can't even imagine him coming to me. My first thought would be, there's no way. But but could there be a way? And so then that makes me think, well, okay, before I just take a side, we have to have all the evidence. Everything has to be laid out. And so, yes, there was a barrier there. I wanted to just snap at her and say, rah. Um, but I see where she's coming from. And taking her opinion and thoughts into consideration, I think, man, can I still be a feminist? But I can. After thinking about it, I most certainly can. I just think that being a feminist, you want things to be equal. And right now they are so unequal. Race, gender, there's so much discrimination on both. Um, and so there was a barrier, and I think I overcame it. And I also learned so much from that conversation, and then taking the time to really digest it and think about it. Um, but this is my video. I'm sorry that it was paused for a bit, but this is my life. This is real life. So those are my thoughts. And I just felt like it was easier to. It's very bright out here. We are actually getting a little bit of good weather here in Washington right now, which is not how it's been lately. But I appreciate you guys watching this, and I hope you all have a great day. And if you have any comments, message me. These are good conversations I love to have. So I have to figure out how to. I'm almost 40, so I'm still kind of learning all of this recording technology. I'm going to stop. Okay, have a good day. Bye.